Hello and welcome to Finally Fabulous with me, Kate. Finally Fabulous is a podcast that shines the light on some incredible women as they embrace what we like to call their fuck it moment to bring their joy back into their lives. Today, I'm joined by the inspirational JT. Hello, JT.
Hello, Kate.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Privileged to have you here.
Thank you.
So JT makes a warm impression on you from the moment you meet her. She is full of effervescence in this spiritual way, but it's a really lovely calming quality as well.
Thank you.
Full of life, full of what's next. But more than this, Janice is one resilient lady, full of gumption, real grit in your core. You really listen and you're really genuinely interested in everybody who you come across. That's what really strikes me when I first met you. You prove every day that life doesn't have to be linear. They can be very squiggly. And your mantra is really turning pain into power.
Absolutely.
If something doesn't fit, you just change it. Find a way to do something different, make a decision and move on. And you're an advocate for single motherhood and choosing yourself and your values first before anything else.
Always.
I'm so excited that you're here today. I'm really looking forward to chatting to you.
Me too.
And I just already feel that this chat today is going to be one of many, many, many as we become firm friends.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kay. I look forward to it.
For coming. So here we are, and we're going to dive straight in. So when we first met each other, you made us really laugh because you were like, actually, my whole life has been a series of bucket moments. And I imagine that that must have started, I'm guessing, when you left home at 16 and didn't come back and just walked out the door.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
And, you've gone on, you're running your own business now. You've had a career spanning luxury, fashion, entrepreneurship, in HR and culture, like so many different things. There's a lot for us to get through today.
Yes.
And I also feel that we share quite a lot of instances and values in the way that we've dealt with our lives along the way. So let's crack on. So can you take us back to when you were 16 and, that was a tough time. And I imagine that when you had to make that decision to leave, it was probably the start of your resilience and your forming your power around your independence and needing to make that choice for yourself.
Yeah, it wasn't really something that I thought a lot about. It was quite a spontaneous act of rebellion where I had enough. I was raised by a single mum for the most part, but she met my stepfather, who was mostly in our lives. And I found his way of raising children quite difficult culturally. He didn't come from a Caribbean background. He came from Nigeria, and his way of raising children was quite strict. It was brilliant in so many ways. There were so many wonderful foundations and moral value, but he was really strict. Okay. And I didn't necessarily get on particularly well with him at that stage of my life. And I remember one day just deciding, I've had enough of this. And I went to the shop to buy hair gel and I never went home.
Good for you.
And I ended up at a friend's house, and that's where I stayed.
Yeah.
Nobody ever asked me to come back, which was quite interesting.
Right.
And then at that point, I realised I was on my own.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, I went to a homeless unit and had a conversation with a really nice man. And they found me temporary accommodation.
Incredible.
And I lived there for 2 years.
Wow.
I was then given a council property when I was about 18 and a half, just before 19. And I lived there for a really short period of time, but I didn't like it. And so I remember going back to the council office and handing them back the keys, which was probably a really bad decision. Who hands back the keys to a council property?
Right.
I did. Very much my fuck it essence. And I remember moving into my boyfriend's mum's house and then convincing her to loan me the money for a deposit.
Wow.
And at 19, I bought my first property.
Incredible. But you secured a boyfriend in that time as well, and made such an impression on a new woman that she would loan you the money.
Yeah.
I mean, that is all really impressive.
Thank you. I mean, I didn't think it through.
No.
I built a really good friendship and bond with her. Her name's Jo, and we're still friends to this day.
Brilliant.
And I think that I always had I think I made a positive impression on her because I think that she could see from really young that I was kind of a go-getter and nothing was going to stop me.
And do you think that really started to shape the woman you are today, since that circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I ever think about too much because it was just circumstance.
Right.
So it was a case of I have to continue because I don't have another choice.
Yeah.
What's the alternative? So, but yeah, I think now when I look back, even having a 16-year-old daughter myself, thinking about myself at that stage, we're so very, very different. So I think that I was very capable, but I think that came out of needing to learn how to look after myself.
Yes.
And relying on myself and surviving, whereas she doesn't have to do that because she's got me to always rely on. So
it's like you're making up for the things that you didn't get yourself. You're making sure that your daughter has the things.
Absolutely. I mean, my mum was 16 when she had me.
Right.
So she was a very young mum.
Yeah, she was.
And I was raised predominantly and a lot of the time by my grandparents who would help my mum because of the fact that she was so young. Yeah. So I recognised that, there isn't kind of a book of, know-how when it comes to being a parent. And she made it up as she went along. And some things she got really right and some things maybe she would do differently if she had the opportunity again.
Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, very courageous and brave.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the right, in her right as well.
Absolutely.
And we all are. So do you think that independence that you started then, you clearly carry that on now? It's very, I can see it, in your bones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you rely on any other support around you at that time? So you lost the support that you thought you had. You created some new with your boyfriend and his mother.
Yeah.
Did you have any other friends and people around you at that time? Or was it quite solitary?
No, I mean, I've got really long-standing friendships. And so I did have a particular friend who we went to college. So I continued my education, although I left home. I continued my part-time job. I did all of the things to ensure that I was stable and secure. And so I had a particular really good friend around me at the time. And we kind of navigated together. Okay. We got our first jobs together. We went to college together. We did everything together. And she was a real consistent in my life. But I realised that I was an inspiration to her.
Okay.
And I was always supporting and showing her the way, although she had the supportive network. But then another friend of mine, her mother, who I've recently lost, she showed me what the ideal parent looked like. And she was really supportive for me. So at times when I didn't have money, she would be the one to feed me.
Such a kind, easy thing to do.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like pull up a chair, there's enough food for everyone.
Yeah. And that was the daily occurrence throughout the whole 6 weeks holiday every year.
Yeah. So because earlier when we were chatting, you were talking about, the need to be kind. And, you have actually you've found these pockets of kindness that people have shown you along your journey. And, that's probably where you've learned that from.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think that growing up, I came from a family. My grandparents were always really kind. And my granddad was the granddad of the neighbourhood. So all of the kids would be welcome at home, no matter what the background. Everyone came for my granddad's famous rice and peas and chicken. And
that sounds good. We need to get that recipe.
Yeah, it's really good. And my granddad fed and looked after everyone. So I think that kindness is in my DNA because that's ultimately what I grew up observing.
Yeah. My gran actually was a force of nature as well. And she was known in the whole community as Gran.
Right. Same. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think those values were instilled without you even kind of realising that that's where it came from.
And now we're looking to pass those values down to our own kids, and kindness has to be top of the list.
Yeah, always. Yeah. And I remember when my daughter went into a new school when we were living in Barbados, and the teachers asked the children what their plans were for the year. Mm-hmm. Bizarre thing to ask 7-year-olds, but my daughter said kindness. And I remember her telling me that and me thinking, really, Gabby, is that what you said? Yeah. You're already kind. But her whole idea was that she just wanted to really kind of practice kindness. And there were a lot of really privileged children there. And unfortunately, kindness was not something that Gabrielle was a beneficiary of. I remember her first lunchtime at this school. She said, "Oh, Mummy, I just sat on the steps and read my book because I needed to have a password to play with the other children."
Oh, my God.
And because she didn't have it, she couldn't play with anyone. So
it's unbelievable to me how bullying is still such a big thing in schools.
Absolutely.
And especially with girls, it's like really hard.
Yeah, and I think that it's a great thing teaching our children to be kind. But at some point, we also need to teach them how to cope in the real world, because the reality is not everyone will be kind.
It's
and
not
it wasn't
kind.
until she started secondary school that I was then put in a position where I had to teach her how to actually defend yourself. Now, still be kind, but actually you need to know when not to be kind in order to defend yourself. So it's such a balance, and it really is a rude awakening into what real life is and what we need to teach our girls.
It is such a balance. Okay, so we're only up to fuck it moment 3.
Right. Only.
And we've called it the Caribbean Leap.
Oh.
So, this story is incredible because courage and bravery came into play as well, again, with this story. And, not only did you have the courage to leave what looked like, the perfect relationship, the perfect life on one hand, but you really dug your heels in and went, this isn't right for me. It doesn't fit for me.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So I think my daughter was about 14 months, and at the time that I left, but actually when I met her dad, I was living in the Caribbean. And I moved back to England, to London, and lived an amazing life. Everything was super high profile. We only flew first class, limousines waiting for us on the other side when we would get to whatever the destination was. Lived in the lap of luxury in a beautiful home that we renovated in North London. And I think on the outside, it looked like the ultimate picture of glamour. I mean, I didn't want for anything driving around in Bentleys and all sorts of fancy cars. And that was great. And I remember pinching myself regularly saying, oh my God, is this my life? And it was amazing from that point of view. But interestingly, it didn't necessarily work out for us. And it didn't work out for me because I ultimately was lonely and not necessarily fulfilled. And although on paper we had everything, something was always missing within me. I think not having my own income and not having that autonomy over my own life was something that didn't sit well with me. And I always felt that I had to kind of prove myself that I wasn't some gold digger waiting for someone to look after me, because that couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah, or further from your personality.
And further from my personality. So I had to take control again. And I remember being headhunted by Louis Vuitton. They were opening their first store in the Caribbean, in the Eastern Caribbean. And I was headhunted to lead that opening.
Incredible.
So a monumental occasion, opening a Louis Vuitton in that part of the world.
Brilliant.
Was incredible. I was the GM, the general manager, but I was also the local head office. I was everything. And ran that with a 14-month-old.
So complete startup
in the Caribbean, obviously a very known, brand.
Wow.
And we did really well.
And I think one of the things you talked about along that conversation was the need to have financial independence. And I think that could not be more important for every single woman of some form. Just know that you've got your own money in whatever shape that is. And that, if you needed to change your life or something happened, you can do that independently of anybody else. You don't have to rely on anyone else.
Such an important
And
message.
if you're able to do that, of course.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
hard.
Yeah.
Interesting that what looks amazing on the outside often is just not on the inside at all.
No.
And, so many women and men just really lonely. And, I had the same with my ex-husband, when to be honest, he made the decision in the end. And I was actually really grateful for that. The year before, I'd said to him, I don't think it's working. And, we tried to work that through. And I was like, okay, maybe we're in a good place now. But we weren't. We were unhappy. Both of us were unhappy. And I'm really grateful actually to him that, even though it was really hard at the time, really shocking, and I desperately wanted Alice to not come from a broken family because I'd experienced that. But also to that point is that that your kids aren't going to be happy if you're not happy. But yeah, it's the don't hang on inside a relationship if you're lonely and if you're sad and if it's really not what you want it to be.
Well, I think you're lonelier, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think if you're single and lonely, it makes sense why you're lonely, because you're single. Mm-hmm. But I think if you're in an unhappy relationship, you feel more lonely from what you want it to be versus what the reality of the situation is. But I thought that what was important was that she had a whole mum and that she had a stable mum that she could rely on.
Yeah.
And I thought that leaving that relationship was the only way that I could give her that.
Yeah, and there's so many, single parents out there, single mothers, trying their best just to do day in, day out, making it work. And your kids, your toddlers, whatever age they are, they tell you whether you're doing it right or not. There's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
From them, it's that from them. And you can, if you're not careful, you can take that inside and it can really eat you up. Right?
Definitely.
So looking back, do you think when you made all these decisions along your life, you've been growing this independence, like quite strong, but there's quite a strong theme going through it. And because, yes, you can rely on some people sometimes, but then they don't fit what you need in the end. And I think all of those steps along the way, you're going, right, I need to do this myself. Right, I need to do this myself. And maybe people might call you, and I'm like that as well, control freaks. Yeah, maybe.
Probably.
But, that's, for me, it's like being independent. And we talked before about being financially independent as well. And it is about control. It is about making sure you have control over your life. When I've been in situations where I've had to really lock down, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to rely on anybody else now. And something bad happens, you lock it down. You're like, look after yourself, be yourself, and the people around you, make sure, which then makes it quite hard to let people in. Do you think you found that during your life?
Yeah, I think that I find it really hard to rely on someone because I'm always thinking they're not going to be able to do it. They'll let me down or they're going to do it wrong. And they'll do it wrong in the way that you want it to be done, which they don't even actually understand.
Absolutely. Yeah, which is not really fair either.
Which is not fair.
But they should just know, right?
Yeah.
Why don't they just know?
Why don't you just know? Or I will ask them to do it, and then if they don't do it in the time that I need them to do it, I just say, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And actually, I think in relationships, that can be really hard because then it kind of demasculates. Is that the word? I don't know what the word is. Demasculates someone.
It is that word.
And then they don't feel able to support you. And then they maybe think, well, what's the point? Because she won't appreciate it anyway. So I think that it's helped me to kind of value the contribution that somebody else could make.
You value the contribution so that you let them in.
Yeah.
And it's like, because otherwise, how is this relationship going to work?
Well, exactly. And actually learning.
And compromise, maybe
compromise, but also learning that there's more than one way of doing something. And it doesn't actually have to be the way that I've set it up in my own parameters of my own thinking. Yeah. But actually, they have a way of doing it that will be just as good. Might be different, but it might be just as good.
Yeah.
So
and that actually links into the way that you think about people, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
Like everyone's just different. Doesn't mean that
it's bad.
Bad
it's
or
just
right
different.
or wrong or anything.
Yeah.
It's different.
And it's really interesting when you apply that to your own life. And I think that because I've had to be so independent, I think giving up that element of control is actually quite tough.
Yeah.
So I think that when I do that, it's not an easy thing, but I think it also speaks to how much I value or trust that person to allow them to do that and to allow them to get close enough.
I do tell them that as well. Do you say you're lucky? Because
not necessarily. Maybe I infer it.
Yeah.
Rather than outwardly say it.
Yeah. But it is hard, especially when it's a new relationship.
Yeah.
With a partner or, in work or anything.
Yeah.
Is you really kind of understanding the give and take and, what's going to sit and what's going to sit well for people.
Yeah.
And when I'm working, some of the work I do is coaching and mentoring and with people as well. And I encourage people to really listen to what's being said, and just having that time and being able to listen and, park what you're thinking until you get the whole story out. And then you can go, oh, okay, I can see how that would be.
Definitely.
And from your point of view, and this is therefore how you could manage that conversation going forward or that relationship going forward. And it, like you say, it's just a matter of taking that on your board yourself.
Yeah, but it's also, I think it's also my own evolution and my own growth, because I'm now able to identify that ability in somebody else to kind of step up to support me.
Yeah.
And even with my current relationship, he is from a different culture. So he's Nigerian, and he will carry bags and not let me pick them up.
Right.
That's a massive thing for me. And I stand there thinking, oh my God, he's picking the bag up. And then I have to allow him to do that, because that's also how he is raised.
Yes.
And it's what they consider, a man to be polite and to kind do for you. And I've had to learn how to receive that in him. And he's always, really quick to do for me. And that's been a lesson.
Yeah, and that kind of chivalry is actually really lovely. We actually don't want to lose that. And people will open the door and then stand aside to let me in the front door always.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I know, but really he's creating a monster, because now I just expect it all.
I know, exactly. But yes, earlier we were talking about, being in a work situation, and there's still so much work to do.
Yeah.
In work environments around supporting young mothers, or any mothers,
or any mums,
mums, and or any single or any parent, dads as well, I imagine. And people just don't appreciate what happens outside of work. It's like there's still like a whole nother job to do when you get home, or even before you even get to work. And when I was a single parent, and I changed my job at the same time, so I was working in London. Alice was transitioning from primary school to secondary school. So our life was in quite a big change all at the same time. And we're both independently nervous about these new things. But it was okay. It's all going to be all right. And, Mittens, the cat, was here too, going, it's all right. It's going to be okay. And, I used to get up and get on that 7:30 train, and Alice was still in bed and, getting herself ready and running to the bus. And would she get to the school on time? And, oh God, I've been so distracted by Alice. I've got to pay for my parking at the station and, and all those things. And then rushing back, and I actually taught Alice how to cook some meals so that she didn't have to wait for me to get home before she could eat herself. And then actually that turned into a nice thing, because then she was cooking food, simple things for us, and then I would get home and she'd go, here we go, Mum, I've got some dinner ready for you. And I was like, that's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, but I was getting in at 7 p.m. and Alice had to get herself home. And
it's really interesting, because listening into that story, it just kind of shows me how much we have in common. And it's just one of the themes for my life, is really looking at those patterns that bind us. And actually, I think that when you get under the hood of it all, we realise how many similarities we have as human beings. So hearing that story, I got on the 7:30 train. Gabrielle was the first in Breakfast Club, and she was the last out at 6 o'clock. And I was working in this one organisation at the time. It lasted 10 months because there was zero flexibility, and I was commuting an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back every day. And realising I wasn't seeing my daughter, being exhausted, not being able to do homework with her, not feeling capable of, preparing a meal at that time of the night and giving her a meal at the right time. I was quite a stickler for routine. And it was really tough. So I had to make a decision to leave, because I remember even the women who had children in that office, because their children had grown up, I think their memories were short. And so they didn't really, or maybe they didn't have that experience, because if they weren't single parents, they didn't know what you needed to navigate. And so there wasn't really any compassion or empathy shown to me. I did have a manager at that time, but unfortunately she had to, toe the line and wasn't able to give me that flexibility, even though I know that she certainly would have. But she also made the decision to move on. So when that happened, I was completely alone and not able to sustain that job anymore.
So they lost you as an incredible employee.
Yeah, they lost me.
Because they weren't flexible enough on their policies to bend the rules. And the rules need to be flexible because, like you say, anybody else with a child has a completely different situation to the next person along. So not having a 3-hour journey would be one thing. Not having to do both the pick up and drop offs would be another. But ultimately, like you say, it's like this. Well, it is like a guilt. I felt guilty. I wanted to be. I wanted to have a career. I wanted, that was important to me to be Kate, not just Alice's mum. And I wanted to have that. But at the same time, I wanted to be a good mother to Alice as well. That was also really important. And it was really hard to balance those. Maybe in a way COVID has helped. Maybe the hybrid working, I know for many, is apart from having to do homeschooling, which was not a disaster.
Although lots of companies are now kind of renegotiating that and now suddenly want everyone back in the office. And it is one of the things that really worries me, because I just think about not just working mums, but I think about menopausal women. I think about people who are navigating mental health and anxiety. And this need to suddenly be in the office when it was proven all over COVID that we can actually deliver even more when we're able to be our whole selves and able to not have to navigate, the commutes into London or what have you. So I think it's a real shame. And I do think that is now going to have a detrimental effect on mums, because let's face it, we are still 9 times out of 10 the primary care givers, and then obviously people who might be looking after an ailing spouse or an elderly parent, and those people now will be overlooked if that hybrid working isn't something that stays. So
and there's so much pressure on people working. It's so hard to get a job now. It's so hard to keep the job. The corporate transformation is massive. It's relentless out there. It really is. So if you can just work at home for a couple of days, just let people do that. So you've just been talking about being an inclusive human, and now onto your consultancy now, iHuman, which sounds amazing. Tell us about the premise of that. I'm really interested to know more.
So it's an interesting one. I think because of all of the different experiences that I've had working within the HR space and really understanding inclusion from a holistic perspective, being neurodivergent, having, grown up in a single parent family, coming from social housing, all of those kind of items, I think made me understand that all people are navigating something. And there are really patterns of difference. And actually, what are the things that everyone benefits from? Embedding inclusion into the ecosystem of organisations so that everybody could thrive and reach their full potential.
I love that. That's such a good statement.
That's essentially what we exist to do. Yeah.
And that's so critical.
Yeah.
And it'd be something I imagine that HR teams are thinking that they're doing, and they're working really hard to kind of do it. And I imagine, sadly, that some corporations are ticking the boxes and not doing it properly.
Absolutely.
And other companies are probably doing it much better.
Yeah, definitely. It's about moving out of processes and policies and into behaviours that don't have to sit in an EDI team or in a HR team.
And what's EDI? What's that?
Equity, diversity and inclusion. Okay. But it actually just becomes the way things are done around here. And it's fundamentally steeped in kindness.
Yes, it is.
Fundamentally, it's about thinking holistically, thinking a little bit more about the experience that people have when they join your organisation, not just the values that are on your intranet page or on a wall, but actually living them, and that people can actually feel those values in their day-to-day interactions.
Every single day.
Who gets hired, who gets promoted, who gets invited to those conversations, and really kind of democratizing what good looks like and making sure that everybody knows really clearly what the expectations are of all people.
Yeah. Oh, that must be so refreshing for so many HR teams that you're able to come and say, I actually know about this stuff.
Yeah.
They must be so pleased to have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think that people overthink it and they think that it's something really scary and wild that can never be achieved. But actually, when we break it down, it really is small changes to everyday behaviours.
And what kind of changes, difference. What kind of things have you been finding that are there, but you can just spot them and
I think one of the big ones for me is around things such as psychological safety and bullying and harassment, those kind of things. I think that they've been really impactful. And I say psychological safety because it's one of those areas that people get really frightened of, and people are now becoming more familiar with it, but they don't recognise that creating psychological safety is just around having an inclusive attitude, building rapport, building relationships with your employee before the house is on fire.
Yeah.
So when there is a problem, people feel comfortable and able to speak up, talk about what their needs are without fear of repercussions. And I think that that's been really, really impactful for the clients that I've worked with.
I imagine that's probably on the growth, sadly, again, is it now, with all the changes and transformation in business?
Yeah, I think it's a perpetual cycle, to be honest. And I think that there'll be times when people are more aware and there'll be times when people are less aware. And I think the political landscape plays a massive part in that, where everybody feels that they need to be, seen to be doing something. And I always say, let's not worry about what everybody thinks we're doing outside. Let's just think about making sure that we are comfortable with the fact that we're making the right decisions internally.
I like that. I like that approach to it. And it's not just a corporate business, it's hospitality. It's like literally
everywhere.
Anything. I mean, schools, kids, the whole thing.
Everything.
Right? Yeah, every single thing. Yeah, because we quite often just think, okay, that's just a corporate thing, but it's so not.
It's wherever you're hiring people, whatever the industry is.
Yeah,
people have their needs regardless,
and also from customers as well. So I think students are actually like customers now to universities, right? Well, they are. It's not even.
They are customers.
It's every single thing where you're encouraging people to come together.
Yeah,
and be a new unit in a way, a new community. And treat those people as if they are your families. Sometimes we just kind of step inside open the door to our business or open the door to the pub where we work or whatever it is and become someone different.
Someone else.
Yeah. It's like, why does that change?
Yeah, it really is about, people talk about authentic self and I'm actually much more vested in being your best self because actually your authentic self could be an asshole. I don't want to encourage that coming to work. So I always focus on being the best version of you rather than
I like that. Me going, okay, it's like you being authentic. No thanks.
No, thank you. Because I think that we have to adapt depending on our circumstance. I'm not the same person as I am with my daughter as I am with my friends. So you have to be able to pivot depending on the situation. And
how many glasses of wine we've had?
100%.
And talk to me about your tribe now and how your community is shaping up.
Gosh, it really is such a mixed bag. I mean, working in the music industry, I've now got friends that I would have never have dreamed of becoming as close to as I have done. People that have done amazing things like writing songs for Tina Turner. And, this is now my bestie. I can just call her up. Another lady called Carla Marie, who wrote Freedom for Beyonce.
Wow.
I mean, incredible.
Wow.
And then I think when I look at my life prior to that, it was fashion. And so again, I've got some weird and wonderful friends in that space as well. So my tribe is really a mixed bag. Yeah. It's people from the UK, it's people from completely different walks of life, and people that still, live in the Caribbean. So it's a mixed
and just
bag.
As weird and wonderful as you are.
Just as weird and wonderful. Absolutely.
I reckon I fit into that. I can easily fit into that. Definitely the weird.
I've definitely got some badass women in my space. Absolutely.
Takes one to know one.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've covered so much stuff already today. So if you were to look back, I know it's going to be quite hard, I think, but do you think, is there one fuck it moment that you think, changed your life the most?
Oh gosh, picking one is really hard.
Sorry about that.
I kind of think probably when I left England the first time I moved to Barbados.
Okay.
Because I got access to a life that I never thought I could have. And then I met my ex and had my daughter. And I think that she is the making of me to some degree, because I think whatever ambition I may have had in my life, I think it was just kind of exacerbated because I became mum to this amazing young person. And my sense of responsibility just multiplied. So I think that was the making of me.
I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it?
It's terrifying, absolutely.
I mean, it's beautiful, magical, exciting, wonderful, but exasperating as well at some point. And but it can be really terrifying. When
and I was a neurotic mum. I mean, everything was Gabby, bed at this time. But actually, I think now, wow, I managed to raise a whole human. She's nearly 16. I didn't leave her in the supermarket. It's amazing.
All those things. Well done for not killing your child. What would you say to someone who feels stuck in their life right now and just can't see a way out?
Oh God, there's always a way out. I think one of the things that I always said that my friends remind me of is that I'm not a tree and I don't have roots anywhere. If it's not working, get up and do something different. The only thing that can't move is a tree. So for me, I just think it's that whole idea of feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think that's really what my life has been made up of. Moving back to England when I was 41 with a daughter, not having the safety again of a home or anything to come back to and having to start again. I think that sometimes in your head, it's a lot worse than the reality of it ever could be. And
it's the fear that actually, if you can embrace that fear, obviously it can be all encompassing. And it can be, quite, really, really scary. But whatever you decide to do it. Just do whatever's right for you, just make it work. But if you really want to do the scary stuff, do it, go for it. And, if you want it that much, then it will pan out.
Absolutely.
And you will find a new tribe. You will find new people who will just support you on it. Ask a question, just ask for help. One of my friends recently posted something and it was about her asking for help. She's a single mother and she'd asked for help. And she said, I always feel so guilty about it. And yet what I realised was that the person who was giving me help was so glad to be asked because she felt helpless, not knowing how to help, but wanting to help.
I think you also have to learn how to receive help.
Yes.
And that's certainly something that I've had to learn how to do. And I'm still not there yet. So when somebody offers to help me, I still have an internal battle and I might say yes, but inside I'm still thinking, oh my God, and preparing myself maybe for disappointment, preparing myself that maybe they'll change their mind and I'll still love them and forgive them anyway, because I ultimately don't think it's anyone else's role or responsibility but my own. So I do think that there is some benefit to being resilient, but I do think that you do have to learn how to allow others to help you.
You do. And I think maybe what's underneath all of that is that you're setting yourself out to do something on your own anyway. If someone says they can help and they turn up and do that, that's a bonus. But do it yourself. And this is quite a tricky one, so we might have to think about Gabrielle as part of this question, but what would your 16-year-old self think about you today?
Oh gosh,
the JT in front of me now.
So if I think about my daughter, she really is a massive fan of mine. She thinks that I can do anything. I think if I think about my 16-year-old self, I think she would probably be relieved that I made it. I think she would be surprised about some of the things that I was able to overcome. I do think that she would be quite proud of me, but I also think there would be some decisions that she would say, what the hell were you thinking? But ultimately, I think that she would be surprised.
Well, I hope that ultimately she would be proud.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because you should really be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
I mean, you've had so many different life careers, so many different sectors, like completely different business areas and industries and locations and territories. And oh my God, there's like so much already. We're really proud of you. You should be really proud
Thank you.
And, everything, the kind of overlying theme, I think, of this whole conversation has been that success doesn't have to be linear to be powerful.
Absolutely
you're
not.
just chunking through stuff. So I imagine you've still got another, 4 or 5 lives to go?
Absolutely, at least.
At least. Who knows what to come next? What do you find joy in now? What if we talk about reclaiming the joy back into your life? I mean, you've had moments of that across all the different, I think we're up to the 5 or 6 different fuck it moments now.
Yeah.
But when you think about now, what's the joyous moments for you?
Gosh, it's really simple things. I think I just really enjoy, it's probably boring, but I enjoy health.
Yeah.
I really do recognise that health is wealth, certainly approaching 50. So I feel that it's joy.
Is that exercise and eating well?
Eating well, going to the gym, spending time in the spa and sauna.
Yeah.
Just looking after myself.
And having time, actually.
And having time,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think I find a lot of joy now in having autonomy over my own day and my own work and my own schedule, and being able to kind of choose where I live and work. I think that's massive joy for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Although it sounds like you've always had that autonomy, really.
Probably, yeah, because as soon as it doesn't work, I say, fuck it, I'm going on to the next one.
Sorry, you don't fit for me anymore. Bye.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, but that's been an important ongoing joy, is that you need to have that.
Yeah, I do.
And if it goes, then you're not right. It's unstable.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So lovely, joyful things. It's been an absolute joy having you here on the podcast today. I hope you feel you definitely are to us finally fabulous. And I think there's much more fabulousness to come.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
It's been an
JT.
absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome.